Ukraine signs a ceasefire with pro-Russia rebels offering the best chance of halting the ongoing conflict, which has cost at least 2,000 lives and sunk relations between Russia and the West to Cold War-era lows. Welcome to your Friday lunch break. I'm Tanya Rivero. Joining me with the details of the ceasefire is the Wall Street Journal's Moscow bureau chief, Greg White. Greg, thanks so much for being with us. Do we know how this ceasefire came about after so many failed attempts?
Well, there have been a lot of difficult attempts to get diplomatic resolution to this crisis. The breakthrough here seems to have come earlier this week in a phone conversation between Ukrainian President Poroshenko and Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, where they outlined the structure of the deal. The final details of this preliminary agreement were reached today in Minsk, the capital of Belarus, where there were talks between the rebels and the Ukrainian side with Russian and European participants there.
And we know the ceasefire protocol contains 12 points. Do we know what these terms might be?
We don't have very many details at the moment. The ceasefire itself only took effect a little over an hour ago. Initial reports suggest that the fighting has indeed stopped. The major points are ending the fighting, steps to exchange prisoners. There looks like there'll be humanitarian convoys into some of the cities where the fighting's been, starting as early as this weekend. Many of the rest of the details are to be worked out in the coming days and technical negotiations, and then obviously the big questions of the final status for these separatist regions in eastern Ukraine. Those sorts of things will have to be decided in difficult talks in the coming weeks, assuming this deal holds.
Greg, this would seem to be very good news, but yet rebel leaders say that despite ordering their fighters to stop fighting, their course of separation hasn't changed. So is this momentary peace essentially unsustainable?
It's difficult to say just how hard it's going to be to hold this together. I think that for the next couple of days will show to the extent to which the deal holds at all. And then certainly thorny issues over their status are going to be at the core of coming negotiations. But ultimately, the tough fighting over the last few weeks, and particularly the severe setbacks the Ukrainian forces faced after what they said was a major intervention by Russian troops in the last couple of weeks, that certainly weakened Kiev's bargaining position and left Mr. Poroshenko willing, apparently, to accept rebels controlling some territory in the east of his country.
And so how do we think this will affect the relationship between Putin and the West? Could this move to contain the violence result in the removal of some of the sanctions that have been imposed on Russia?
For the moment, it's early to say on that. The reaction out of the NATO summit in Wales, which is where Mr. Poroshenko was today, is cautious. So far, the most it looks like Moscow can hope for is that the next round of sanctions that the European capitals were considering to impose as early as Monday could be delayed if the ceasefire holds and there continues to be progress towards a negotiated resolution. Long term, there are a lot of questions left still about just how real the progress here is and whether the relationship with the West can be rebuilt.
Right. Well, at least today it's welcome news. Greg White, thank you so much for that.
Glad to be here, Tanya.